Hi, and welcome to the I T'd Myself podcast. My name is Matthew Miniman, and this is episode 32. What can a sneeze teach us about zero-click exploits? So let's imagine you are in a public place. You have a nagging cold, but it's not too bad. You just have a little cough. Your nose kind of runs every now and then. Let's say you by force of habit, do something like you scratch your face or lick your finger to turn the page or to grab a plastic bag for your vegetables at the grocery store. And then you move about your day and just do your normal thing. The way that diseases spread, that sickness is spread, is typically through, or a lot of common ones is through saliva or droplets through coughs and sneezes. And so when you're in a public place and you start touching things that other people are going to touch, that leaves residue on those surfaces. And as another person walks up and touches that surface, they'll get those germs, and then they'll probably do something like touch their face. I once heard a statistic that people touch their face once every 30 seconds. I don't know if that's true. I've certainly never kept count myself, but if it is, then it is very likely that that person, whoever touches the surface you touched, could potentially get whatever illness you have. And this is kind of similar, not really, to how zero-click exploits work. Zero-click exploits work in a few ways. There's a couple, but the one we're going to focus on today is cell phones. We're going to focus on zero-click exploits for cell phones. There was an article that came out 3 days ago. Today is June 2nd, 2024. I believe it came out 3 days ago. And it was kind of a tongue-in-cheek article. And the title said, NSA tells everybody to turn off and turn on their phone again. And this is kind of a nod to the IT crowd, where whenever they answer the phone, that's the first thing they say is, "Have you turned it off? Turn it back on again?" And that it's kind of a tongue-in-cheek article because the NSA group did actually, or the NSA government agency actually did say something towards this last week. They sent out a brief that was basically like, "Hey, certain malware that is released on your device. If you are a victim of a zero-click attack, the only way that you're going to know about it is after the fact, and there's not really a good way for you to prevent it except for powering off and powering on your phone, as this will ensure that any applications that are running in memory get stopped immediately." So that's the whole process that's the whole reason why this came about from the NSA and why those articles are there. And the way that zero-click exploits work is kind of like how when you sneeze in an open environment and your snot droplets make their way into other people's mouths through a series of events, that is how people get sick. So what happens is, with these zero-click exploits, typically you'll receive a text message or a message on your preferred messaging app that has that is a specially crafted message that causes the application, the message interpreter, to operate in a way that it isn't intended. And this is something that in the realm of development is called input validation errors. If you have an issue with your input validation and somebody sends in a specially crafted input, it will perform actions that shouldn't normally be possible. And this is how the entire process of zero-click exploits work. I was asked when this article came out, I was asked very, very quickly, like, what can people do? What is there? What can we do to defend ourselves? Do we need to download an antivirus? Do we need to download it? Things like that. And so, kind of sad to say, no, nothing you can do. Zero click exploits are zero click exploits because that's the nature of how they work. Cell phones specifically are are kind of hard for things like antiviruses and anti-malware and EDR. It's a little hard for them to work. And in fact, if you go and you look for antivirus or anti-malware software, and you go and you look at the cost of them, the cost is kind of laughable in comparison to a computer because EDRs can't really operate because the nature of cell phones is so much different. Because the environment on cell phones is all sandboxed, isolated, and secured. And so an application cannot see another application except when it's exploited out. And so in order for an EDR or an antivirus to work on a cell phone, it has to kind of follow through with an exploit, and that's just kind of bullshit. Nobody's going to do that. It's not really a way for you to operate an antivirus, anti-malware solution. There's not really a good way to do this. Your phones are honestly a little more secured, at least in 2024. They're a little more secured than any PC you're ever going to touch. It's a lot harder to compromise them, but there are specific groups that target cell phones. Now, the other question is, who is going to target me through this? And honestly, it's not your everyday hackers. It's not your script kiddies. It's not your fuckheads, your fuckwits with nothing else to do. It is specifically going to be state-based, state-backed agencies or companies that are specifically crafted to do this. The NSO Group is one of them. The NSO Group is a hacking organization. They are basically a hack for hire, and they provide tools for other governments to perform perform hacks against targets. The way that the NSO Group was formed is the NSO Group is an Israeli company, which doesn't necessarily mean anything, but they're an Israeli company, and the way that the Israeli government works is that if you're a member if you're a citizen of Israel, you have to sign up for some sort of public service. The easiest way to do this is to sign up for the Israeli Defense Force, the IDF. Inside of the IDF, there is a special group. I believe it's called 8020 or 4080. I can't remember right now, and I'm too lazy to look it up. But anyways, that group is specifically crafted for cyber operations. It's just a bunch of hackers. It is the equivalent of the NSA. But when the service is up for the IDF, which I believe it's 6 months, when your service is up with the IDF, you now have some additional skills that you can leave and then go and get a job. And so a lot of the guys who are in this hacking group make their way into the NSO Group, and that's where a lot of these guys are. So these are government trained with government experience. These are trained professionals who are designing and crafting hacks. They have almost unlimited resources and can perform almost an unlimited number of attacks against stuff because that's how they operate. Now, this company has a specific piece of software called Pegasus. Pegasus is a software that targets iPhone phones, and I believe only iPhone phones, though that might have changed. And it utilizes specific zero-click exploits, where all you have to know is the target's cell phone number or their email address or their messaging ID in whatever platform they utilize. Now, the good news for all of this is that the NSO group really they're the primary targets of organizations who utilize the NSO group are typically companies or people who are critical of other governments or have secret knowledge, things like that. So the normal person is not going to be attacked by these folks, at least not yet. So it's important to know and understand that. But the way that this product, these services work, again, it's kind of like that sneeze factor. It's kind of like rubbing your saliva on just everyday objects that somebody else is going to touch. You're on a bus and you wipe it on the handhold, or you accidentally touch the handhold after wiping your nose. Well, now that handhold's diseased, that the next person who walks into that bus is going to catch whatever you have. And so, uh, it's that is the delivery method of the disease. Much like how if I just blast an email message out to a bunch of people, or I blast a bunch of messages out to folks, and I know the zero click is going to work on their devices, I'm going to infect them. And so the infection can occur just from having this app or from going to the specific place. Now there are zero click exploits that affect other types of devices. 18 months ago, I believe it was, there was an exploit against WebKit, which is an Apple specific browser base. And so this browser base, what it is it's how Safari or any browser that works on a cell phone, it's how it operates. It utilizes WebKit to process the information and then present the application to you or whatever so that you can see it. And WebKit is a core part of any web-based app on a cell phone. Like if you use a banking app on your iPhone, more often than not, that is going to be utilizing WebKit. If you utilize the Reddit app on your phone, that is utilizing WebKit. If you utilize Safari, that is utilizing WebKit. If you utilize Chrome on an iPhone, it is utilizing WebKit. So what this means is that anytime you visited a malicious website that had this code on there for WebKit, it would infect your phone. But all you would have to do is go to the website, meaning you wouldn't have to download anything. You wouldn't have to click on any special links. You wouldn't have to accept any special permissions. As soon as you went to the website, that is when you would be infected. So, these are some of the things that can occur. Of course, cell phones are targeted by that as well, but computers can be targeted through those same zero click infections as well. But the biggest challenge with avoiding zero clicks is that because of their nature, they're also 0 days. There's not really a whole lot we know about them that allows us to defend against them. So we have to track that. We have to track that sort of infection, and that's why when the NSA says power off your cell phone, power it back on, and people ask, well, is there anything else we can do to know that we're infected beforehand? It's kind of like, no, there's not. Sorry. The nature of zero clicks means that you get infected and then you're infected. Now, the reason why the powering off and powering back on works is because a lot of these 0 days can only operate in memory because they can't effectively install things directly to the device without your knowledge. Because in order to install the app, they would have to then go through the normal installer process. And then that service can't get created because that is the point at which that trigger happens where it asks for UAC or it has to know the root password, so on and so forth. So a lot of these attacks end up being just based in memory. And so powering off your cell phone, powering it back on will allow you to clear that memory and basically wipe whatever was in there. Now, if you're actually under the target of one of these kinds of attacks and you remove the infection, all it takes is for whoever infected you to send you that message again, which, okay, you've now beaten the infection, you've now beaten the illness, you no longer have a stuffy nose, and you walk right into somebody who sneezes in your mouth. It's basically what's going to happen. It's gross, but it's true. These guys, that's how they operate. Now, the Pegasus, I don't know how the Pegasus software works myself, but I imagine that it's a pay per push sort of charge scenario. So it might be prohibitive for somebody, cost prohibitive for somebody to reinfect you after you've cleared out the infection. But the NSO group also is very much like, we want to prove our product works. So if we guarantee infection and somebody stay infected for X amount of days, I'll bet they throw some sort of guarantee on there, because why wouldn't you if you were, trusted your product and you knew what you were doing. At any rate, that is ZeroClicks, that is 0 days, and that is sneezing in the mouth. So I hope you all enjoyed that, and I hope you all have a great day.